If someone had told me months ago that I would be standing here, witnessing the final days of filming for this season, I probably wouldn't have believed them. But here we are, at the very end of a journey that has stretched longer, hit harder, and carried more weight than any season before it. And today, I want to take you right into the center of it, into the places where the cast pushed themselves to their deepest limits, and where Judas' final moments come to life. From the very start, the air felt different. This entire season was filmed across Italy, and every stone, every cliff, every shadow seemed to carry the heaviness of what these final days would bring. As I walked onto the set, I could see familiar faces some I hadn't seen in what felt like forever. The cast moved around with a strange mixture of exhaustion and pride, the kind you only earn after giving everything you have. I found myself greeting Adam and several of the cast members, including Mary, Salome, and Tamar. It felt almost surreal stepping back into this world after spending so much time focused on other projects. But the moment I stood among them, surrounded by props, sand, and distant ruins, I was reminded of just how much this story still mattered. This season demanded more from everyone. Long days, heavy scenes, nothing comfortable. Everyone kept repeating the same sentiment. You can't ignore how different this season feels. And they were right. The emotional weight was everywhere, from the way the cast spoke about their work to the way the crew quietly prepared each setup. At one point, I passed by a table full of strange, ancient-looking weapons. Blades shaped like bone, heavy hammers meant to drive nails into wood, shackles. I knew they weren't real, but even the sight of them carried a sting. They were reminders of what this season was building toward, of the content that no one takes lightly. Then there was the huge wooden beam, the piece of the cross that would hold the nail. Hearing how they prepared to shoot those moments made my stomach twist a little. It reminded me that some stories require a level of pain in the telling, even if only as a reflection. I saw familiar crew members preparing sound equipment. I ran into the sound team, who joked about the chaos of earlier seasons. Despite the lightness, even they admitted this season wasn't easy. The set had two moods: intense or completely silent. Nothing in between. My eyes caught Mother Mary in the distance. Tears pooled, her face soft yet broken. Beside her, John's expression trembled, and near them stood Martha and Salome, holding each other in grief. The scene they were preparing for wasn't small. It would define everything this season carried. And even though the actors weren't in the middle of filming at that moment, the emotions were still there, raw and trembling. Even Eden had a moment on set, and seeing her again brought a sense of warmth to everything. But warm moments were rare here. Most of what unfolded this season was drenched in heartbreak. Later, we walked past a sign that would hang above Jesus, King of the Jews, written in 3 languages. It rested against a pile of props near a view that captured both ancient ruins and pieces of the modern world. I could only imagine how much work would go into hiding anything that didn't belong. Walking past everything, I noticed Eric, who appeared throughout filming across different locations. Everyone seemed to carry a kind of tired determination, like they knew the importance of what they were giving. Several actors talked about how emotionally draining this season had been. Some mentioned having to cry over and over for days at a time. One actress described learning how to find levels in her sadness when the tears were empty, when the body was tired, when the heart couldn't take more. Another said it was the hardest thing she had ever done. And then there was Jonathan, whose approach to acting meant he carried the weight of his role long after the cameras stopped. Thinking about how he kept that emotional intensity through the entire season made me understand why the atmosphere on set felt so heavy. Everyone was living these moments, not just acting them. One of the actors spoke about feeling peripheral, being present but silent, watching grief unfold around them. That challenge surprised me, because sometimes silence is actually harder than dialogue. You feel everything yet say nothing. The final days in the upper room brought another emotional wave. Everyone was present except for 3: Jesus, John, and Judas. The absence hung over the room like a missing heartbeat. The cast spoke about how strange it felt not to film together, how they had worked as a family for years and suddenly found themselves scattered. Everyone kept returning to the same thought: we won't ever all be together again. Not this cast. Not this group. Not with what happens next. Then the conversation shifted to Judas. I saw him in a scene staged outside Caiaphas' home, surrounded by elders. His face held a confusion and sorrow so deep that even watching from behind the camera made me shift uncomfortably. It was clear that his journey was reaching its final stop. Later, a single image stopped me cold. Judas, on the ground alone, his expression hollow, dry branches around him, a rope in the hands of a prop handler beside him, a noose. This was where everything ended for him. The simplicity of the setting made it even more haunting. No music, no dramatic lighting, just a lonely hillside and a rope. I was told the scene wouldn't appear until the movie releases years from now, but the moment I saw that rope, I felt my chest tighten. Even when you know the ending, seeing it prepared in real life hits differently. Some of the crew talked about special effects for other scenes, dust falling from ceilings, rocks shaking to mimic the earthquake that strikes when Jesus dies. Hearing how they pulled off those moments was fascinating, but even those technical conversations carried tension. You could tell that no one approached this season lightly. Many cast members hoped the audience would feel empathy, real empathy. Not just for the characters, but for the humans behind them. For the people who gave years of their lives to bring this story to life. Two actors spoke about how they hoped viewers would see reflections of themselves, that the characters would feel real more than parables or lessons. Others talked about the love within the crew, the small acts of care, the shared exhaustion, the shared belief in the story. Some mentioned volunteer extras, faces familiar from earlier seasons, all reunited again for the heaviest chapters. The director later shared something deeply personal, that his own family had gone through a season of health struggles. And in some strange way, filming this season allowed him to understand suffering in a new way. Not the same, not entirely, but a taste. Just enough to recognize the depth of what these moments meant. Everyone looked ahead to the next season with hope. Hope that it would feel lighter. Hope that it would bring renewal. Hope that after a season built on pain, the next would be built on resurrection. And as the final day wrapped, the feeling settled over all of us. This season would change people. Not just because of what happens in the story, but because of the love, the endurance, and the honesty that shaped every scene. As I stepped off the set and looked back one last time, I could still feel the weight of Judas' final steps and the quiet sadness of a cast saying goodbye to a chapter they poured themselves into. And I knew this season would stay with us for a long time.